Welcome to Write with Love. I'm your host, Sarah Williams, best-selling author, speaker, and creative entrepreneur. Each week, I chat to passionate and inspiring authors about their journey in creative writing. Some are traditionally published, some do it themselves. Everyone's journey is different, and everyone has something interesting to say. We all love love and love what we do. Today's show is brought to you by our amazing fans and supporters on Patreon. If you'd like to help support the show and get some awesome bonus episodes, go to patreon.com/Sarah Williams Author to learn more. Now here's today's show. G'day, I'm Sarah Williams. Thanks for joining me for episode 39 of Write with Love. I'm recording this on Friday the 14th of September 2018. I am supporting Australian farmers and graziers. For the entire month of September, I am donating all my profits from book sales to rural aid. Aussie farmers and graziers are doing it tough in this drought, and I want to help them out. So jump onto your favourite digital retailer and buy. If you'd like a signed paperback, send me a message through my website or Facebook and I'll get one out to you. Thanks to everyone who has been in contact and ordered books and everyone who has downloaded them, and I hope you're enjoying them. I've been presenting a series of workshops called Taming Your Muse at the Sunshine Coast Libraries. I only have 2 left this week in Caloundra and Maroochydore. These are hosted by the Sunshine Coast Libraries, and all the details can be found on their event website or on my Facebook page. The workshops are free to attend, but you must register as they are almost fully booked. It's been a lot of fun and I really enjoy helping aspiring authors. And on that note, if you would like to join me here in the beautiful Maleny hinterland, I am hosting a writer's retreat from May 31st to June 3rd, 2019. All the details are on my page, www.sarahwilliamsauthor.com/Maleny, MALENY, writers-retreat. We will be writing, talking craft, and having fun. And I will also show you all the steps involved in uploading a manuscript to distributors and how to professionally self-publish. I am limiting this to only 6 people, and there have been about 3 people already booked. So if you do want to get on, you better get on quickly. While you're on my website, don't forget to join my newsletter and also my new Facebook group, which is called Readers of Sarah Williams. My fans and supporters are important to me and will get a very special VIP viewing of my new cover, which will be for The Dairy Farmer's Daughter, which is out November 28th. So make sure you're in the group and signed up for my newsletter if you want to have a look at that. Shout out today to Sandra Antonelli, whose latest book, At Your Service, is out now. Here's the blurb. A butler, a spy, a toilet brush. A romantic suspense, cozy spy thriller mystery with a dash of grittiness and humour. It's charade meets remains of the day. After 3 years in the employ of a former British Army officer turned risk assessment specialist, widowed butler May Valentine is familiar with Major Kit's taste for scrambled eggs, bourbon and brawling. Kit knows of May's fondness for order, her beloved dead husband, and the millions the man left her in trust. Their easy bond is tested the day May kills the man sent to murder her and the trust fund vanishes. Soon, a volcano, a hand roasting in an oven, and a fish named Shirley accentuate sinister machinations that involve May and the missing money. To keep her safe from women in ugly shoes, homicidal bankers, and mafia henchmen, Kit risks exposing his true profession, which doesn't trouble him as much as being in love with a woman who's still in love with a dead man. If he can't protect May, he'll lose the best butler and scrambled eggs a spy ever loved. That sounds fantastic, doesn't it? Thank you also to Lizzie Tremaine, who is my newest patron. I really appreciate your support and encourage everyone who likes horses and historical fiction to check out her website, which is lizzietremaine.com, and that's Lizzie, Lizzi. And if you are an author who would like a shout out, contact me or become a patron at www.patreon.com/Sarah Williams Author. Next week, I'm chatting to none other than the amazing Marie Force. If you don't know who she is, let me tell you. Her books have sold 7 million copies worldwide, have been translated into more than a dozen languages, and have appeared on the New York Times bestseller list 29 times. She is also a USA Today and Wall Street Journal bestseller. I loved chatting to her. She's amazing. Today's chat is with contemporary romance writer Annie West. We have a great chat about working with Mills and Boon and getting to see her books on shelves in supermarkets and department stores. So thanks for joining me today, and here's the interview. Today I'm chatting to Annie West. Thanks for joining me, Annie.
Thanks very much for inviting me, Sarah. It's a pleasure.
Awesome. So you've got a very long and esteemed career behind you, and I'm really interested to talk to you today. So can you tell us how you got into writing and your journey so far?
Yeah, sure. I'm a writer because I'm a reader. One of my earliest memories is my dad reading to me while I was lying in bed as a kid. And books have been an absolute joy all my life. So I wasn't one of those kids I did actually write a book at the age of 12, now I think about it, but I wasn't one of those kids who thought she was going to be an author. I thought I was going to do something else, like being an archaeologist or whatever. And it was only when I had kids of my own that I really thought perhaps that dream might come true. It was always a thought, it'd be really nice to be able to write, and I could have this big desk with a lovely view, and I could, just type out my books or write them by hand with a quill pen or something, and lots of people would read them and, love them. But I never thought it would be true. So I had another career. Then when I had young children, I thought, I could give it a go, because I took some time off my day job and joined Romance Writers of Australia. And that fortunately gave me the know-how to complete a manuscript and to send it off. And I'd got to the stage where I'd been reading lots of romances and loved them, but occasionally I'd read them and the ending wasn't so satisfying. I'm thinking, I'd really like to do my own. So then I started trying for several years to do that. And with the help of my friends, who were other aspiring authors, got my first book contract. My first book came out in 2000 with a small press, after a few rejections and a few short stories with, New Idea and Woman's Day and things like that, which was really exciting because there were people who actually wanted to read my stories. Sadly, the small press I was with then went out of business, not to add because of my story, I don't think. This was the days before the ebook revolution, and they had major difficulties getting distribution rights, and the books they couldn't get the paperbacks into the stores. So it went down the gurgler, and I was left for the next 5 years or so writing and trying again for Mills and Boon publication, which is where I'd sent my first terrible manuscript. When I'd sent it, it was about, instead of being 50,000 words they wanted, it was about 95. It was a very self-indulgent manuscript. And they sent this lovely letter to me saying, no, well, you're not suited for this, or not this manuscript. But the result of that particular rejection, because it was the publisher I really wanted to publish with, was for me to think, I could never make it with Mills and Boon Modern Presents. So I tried everywhere else, well, not everywhere, but I tried a lot of other places, and I was sending manuscripts off to New York, and I got a lot of good feedback. I had editors saying they loved the characters, they loved the plot, but it wasn't really what they were after. I had a very Australian tonality, which wasn't what they were after in those days. And had I thought about trying for the London office for Mills and Boon, I said, I can't write a good alpha hero. Can't write a good alpha hero. I'll give up now. And I actually wrote something completely different for a while, but it was really hard to stop because I really, really wanted to tell these stories. So I thought I'll give it one last shot and I went to a workshop, a day workshop that was held in Newcastle in New South Wales, and Miranda Lee and several other authors were there talking about writing a manuscript for Mills and Boon. And while I was listening to all this wonderful stuff with Emma Darcy and Miranda Lee talking about the stories they write, I got an idea for a story. So, in fact, I came up with a title which didn't survive, but anyway. And so exciting. And I sat there making notes while I was listening to these wonderful authors. And they just gave me the inspiration to keep going. I sent that off to an RW Australia conference. It did win, actually. It did win a contest, and the prize was to be to be judged by an editor in the London office. The editor didn't ask to see it, and I was really annoyed because I thought, this is my one chance, the book that was going to do it. So I kept revising and kept polishing, and then I sent it to the slush pile. And several months later, I got a letter, in those days it was, saying, would you consider, it was an email, would you consider revising? And here are the revisions. I thought, of course I'll consider it. I did that, and then a couple of months later, I got another email. It wasn't the phone call. People used to say, you get the phone call. Didn't get. I got an email saying, we'd like to offer you a contract. I'm thinking, really? And so I've been writing for Mills and Boon since then. So
fantastic. So tell us about your stories and the sorts of topics, and is it contemporary or?
They're all contemporary. I write short contemporary, so I write category. If you think of Mills and Boon or Harlequin, the smaller paperback, that sort of size.
Yep.
So they're 50 to 55,000 words. I tend to write long and then have to cut. So bane of my life. Don't tell my editor. So yeah, I tend to write up towards 60,000 and then cut. I keep getting asked by people if I write longer, if I'd like to write longer, and I'm thinking, well, maybe one day, but I don't have a burning desire to do that. It's taken me so long to learn to write an intense short story that it's really focused. So my books are very emotional, very passionate. So you've got an alpha hero and an alpha heroine. They're contemporary. Think billionaires, think women usually in trouble or some sort of strife, and usually the hero is the trouble in her life. And they're always at odds. There's a lot of emotion. There's that roller coaster ride that people talk about. You could say they're a bit melodramatic. Sometimes I sit in a coffee shop with one of my girlfriends who's also a writer, and we talk about plots, and she tells me what she's working on, and we'll discuss that, and I'll tell her what I'm working on, and then I always end up laughing, saying, it sounds really melodramatic, but it works. And once you're into that world, and it's a chic romance, or it's a billionaire who's got a problem, and the problem is the heroine. It's so intense.
That's fantastic. So you've been writing for Harlequin since around about 2006.
Yeah, the first one came out December 2006. Yeah.
Wow, excellent.
For them.
Yeah. So you've done Mills and Boon, and then you've got some with Presents as well.
Yeah, well, Presents. Yeah, Mills and Boon and Harlequin are the same company. So in Australia, the books are published as Mills and Boon. Harlequin bought out Mills and Boon, and so my books in America, they come out as Presents. I don't know whether I've got a Presents book I could show you handy. Of course, oh yes, I do. So they look. That American reader would know what that is. That's a Presents novel. I don't have a UK cover, but they're called Modern in the UK, and until about 2 months ago in Australia, they used to be called Mills and Boon Sexy. So to my family's utter delight, I could call myself a sexy author. I loved it. But sadly, that has now changed. Well, not sadly, but in Australia, they're now called Mills and Boon Modern. So it's just the name of the line.
Excellent. So how hot are your books? Are they really steamy or?
Yeah, yes. If you read reviews on Goodreads or Amazon, yes, they say steamy and sizzling and so forth. It's not as hot as erotica. You know, it's a romance rather than erotica. But yes, they're not on. There are sweet moments in the book, but it's not a sweet, innocent romance. Yeah. So yeah, there's definitely sizzling.
And have you ever walked into, say, Coles or Woolworths and seen your book in their bookshelves? Yeah.
Of course. Every month that I know I've got a book out, I go in to Big W usually, or Coles or Woolies, and to my delight, about a week ago I went into my local post office, and they know I'm an author, and I'm always posting up books as prizes and getting big boxes of books and so forth. And I was waiting for my husband, and I was, as usual, I was at the book section while I was waiting, just seeing what there was, and there was this bundle of books, and it was, I forgot what it was called, but it had a cowboy on the front. And then when I tilted it sideways, it was like a plastic wrap collection of 6 books, and one of them was one of mine. I think, hey! They're selling it at my local post office. And it was packaged up with a cowboy story, but you know, and I was in. I've been in Europe, and I was so sad I missed my next release. I was a little bit too early. I went to the bookstore looking for my next release, but a couple of years ago, I was in Munich on my way to a reader conference, and I was at Munich airport, and there's fantastic. If ever you're at Munich airport, go downstairs. There's a really good bookstore there. Anyway, this big bookstore, and they had a big section on romance. You know, in Australia, often you go to a bookstore and there's not really a romance section, big romance section. And I thought, I wonder what the covers look like. I wasn't specifically looking for mine. I was just looking at romances, and all of a sudden I saw one of mine, looking around to find someone friendly who could take a photo with me. I didn't. I had an old camera. I didn't have one I could take a decent photo with, and I had a little old camera, and I was trying to take a photo. Eventually, I grabbed a romance reader who was very understanding. She took a photo of me with the book. So, yeah.
That's so exciting.
An Australian reader who had been in Indonesia on holiday, and she saw my book on sale in Indonesia, so she bought it and sent it to me. That was really. I read it, but it looks beautiful.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the best things about Harlequin is because it's, bought out Mills and Boon and everything else. It just does have such a wide reach with, being able to sell into all these regions.
Yeah. I've forgotten how many countries the books are sold in, but a lot. And you get reader mail from all around the world. It's terrific. And as I said, I mentioned Munich. I was recently in reader events in both France and Germany. And I had, that absolute thrill of people coming up and they've read my books and I love them, nothing. So, to have someone that, it's Annie West. And I'm thinking, it's just Annie West. But no. And I was super thrilled.
That's it. And I think the great thing, as a reader anyway for me, is with the Mills and Boon, you get what the title is. They're very obvious titles. You know what you're getting. But all you have to do is read one or one of yours to get absolutely hooked, and then you'll be like, I'm going to keep reading that author because that's what I get.
It's an interesting process actually, because they market on the series, so presents or modern, sexy, whatever you want to call it, as opposed to a sweeter book or whatever. And so the idea is that readers will come in and, the ones who want the medicals, the ones who want the presents, whatever, will go for those and they'll just read those. But then you get the readers who have tried one of those and they just happen to on one of your books and they say, now I look for your name. Yeah. And that's so wonderful. Yeah. I'd go and I'd look for your name and think, yes. It's like you find an author whose style you like. You like the stories they tell, you like the voice. And so you want to find more of them. Yeah. It's terrific.
It's fantastic. So as well as still writing for them, you also decided to do some self-publishing as well. Tell us about your Hot Italian Nights series.
Oh, I'm not going to say that. Yeah, well, I had a gap in a schedule. I was interested in writing more books, and yeah, not many people know, unless they're actually publishing themselves, that there's a gap between the time you get the book in and the time it's published if you're with a traditional print publisher. And I had a particularly long gap, and it was made worse by the fact that they asked me to do a special project, which I did, but they had a different schedule for that, so my normal schedule got completely out of whack, and I ended up with an potential 11-month gap between books. And I thought, and I'd been writing steadily, and the books were going to come out, but there was going to be a gap, and then lots of books together. I thought, I really don't like not having a title out. And I wasn't sure what I could do, and a lot of people I knew had been self-publishing, and a lot had also been saying, why don't you try writing something for yourself? So I wrote a book called Back in the Italian's Bed, which was a novella. And it's basically, these novellas are like my Harlequin books, but shorter. So they're about half the length. And very intense, very emotional, very high stakes, and that one was about a couple who had been lovers, and she'd got sick of him for various reasons, which, if you want to know, read the book, but she got sick of him, she walked out on him, and he was furious because he, as far as he was concerned, this wasn't over. And he followed her, confronted her, was insisting that she pay attention to him again, that, they needed to continue this affair. And so it's all that, passion, drama. I loved it, but I got to write a short book, an even shorter story, which was a discipline in itself. And it was so fun. I can remember at one stage, because, as I said, normally I write long and I have to cut my books. I remember writing a description and thinking, I'll have to cut that description out. And then I thought, well, no, actually, this story can be as long or as short as I want. I can keep that description in if I want. And it's not that my editors normally say cut descriptions. It's just that I, writing long, will often cut that sort of thing. So I wrote one, and it was really well received, and I liked it. So I wrote another one, then I wrote another one. And so I've ended up, 1st of August, I've got my 8th Hot Italian Night novella coming out. And I've got an idea for another series I'd like to write. The trouble is these Italians keep popping into my head too. and I read a saying, when's your next Hot Italian Night, and what is it? No. I keep doing the two, and I love it. It's nice to have the variety. And to me, they're not so different. It's the same sort of world as I write for the longer Harlequin books. But there's a little bit more freedom about what I write and when I put it out. And, if I've got time, I can maybe do a draft if I've got a bit of a gap, and then I can leave it to sit for a while. And if I'm not working to someone else's deadline.
Yeah.
So that's fine.
Yeah, that's excellent. Oh, cool.
Yeah.
And you set some really amazing destinations, obviously Italy and everything. So you've just come back from some travelling around. Tell us where you've been and what you've been doing.
Oh, okay. Well, travel's one of the things I love, and I think that's one of the reasons I really glommed onto romance when I was a teenager, because I got to travel the world. I think as a teenager, I could say I love you in about 9 or 10 different languages from reading all these books that I swear. And so I wanted to go, particularly to Europe, and I've been there a few times, and it's been a really fertile source of inspiration for stories. I've even written my own fictitious royal kingdom in Europe, in the Alps. Might or might not be based on places like Salzburg and various other towns. But this time I went across to a couple of reader events in Europe, in France and Germany, which are just wonderful. Well, any reader event is pretty wonderful. But when you get to combine it with travel, it's good. And I had written a book that will be out later this year, which is set in Italy. And after I sent it in, my editor said, I really loved the way you did this location, this setting. Could you do another Mediterranean story? And I thought, wow, because my editor's lovely, but I don't normally get that, sort of comment. I thought, okay, so somewhere in the Mediterranean, I was planning this trip to the reader conferences, and we were thinking, oh, I don't want to turn up to a reader conference all jet lagged. I really, really need to have 5 days beforehand. So I went to Corfu.
Oh, nice.
In Greece, and I've been to Greece a couple of times, years and years and years ago, and it's been so long, and I've always wanted to go to Corfu, so we went to Corfu, and guess where my next book, the book that I'm writing now, is going to be set. Cool. If I manage to finish it, if it's up to scratch, if my editor likes it, it will be in Corfu. So, and the Italian books, they've been funny too. I actually set the second, third one up in the Alps in the very north of Italy. And that was inspired actually from a trip several years ago. I'd been to one of these reader conferences in Germany, and I'd been talking to an Austrian reader about the trip that I was going to make after the conference. I was going to drive down with my husband through Austria into northern Italy to the Dolomites, these amazing mountains. And she said, oh, watch out for this, and got talking about marmots. They're like groundhogs, these little wombats, these little. And she said, watch out for the marmots and don't feed them bread and And I said, oh, I want to see this. Anyway, this trip was amazing, amazing scenery, tall mountains and hairpin bends, like 12 or 14 hairpin bends in a row. And we did see marmots and took photos, and I thought they were very cute and cuddly. Got back home, and I was thinking, okay, so this next Italian story, I need a setting. Where will I set it? And I had a mental vision of my heroine who used to disguise her looks at work, and she dressed down. But she had this glorious long wavy hair that she always pulled back in a bun. But I had this mental picture of her in motorcycle leathers, taking her helmet off, and all this hair spilling out. She was absolutely gorgeous because it was her day off, and she could just be herself rather than this button-down PA. And I used that as the opening of the book. I had her on a motorbike going around this hairpin bends, and she skids almost off the side of the hill because the marmot runs across the front. The things that end up in books, it's amazing. And of course, the hero just happens to be behind her in his Lamborghini or whatever he's driving. And he has this moment of thinking, "Who are you? Oh, you're my PA." Oh. There's nothing like a cliche. You can have such fun with them. You can twist them around and do all sorts of things.
You certainly can. Oh, that's fantastic. So what's the next one out for you? What are we looking out for?
Well, at the moment, I've got one out. It's the one I just happen to have here. Yeah. Inherited for the Royal Bed, which that's the Australian cover.
Brilliant.
Which is a chic story. I do like writing chic stories. It's a very honourable chic, and it's an outrageous proposition. When I thought of this story, I just giggled to myself. I thought, well, you can't write that. I thought, well, of course you can. It's about a girl who, and she is a girl at that stage, who is actually she's gifted to the royal sheik in this country as his concubine, as his love slave, by her appalling family after her father has died. And the new sheik has just inherited the throne, and he comes in late at night after he's been busy out of the palace negotiating the peace treaty. He's absolutely exhausted, comes through the palace, he's stripping off his clothes, ready to go to bed, and there's this person beside the bed. And it's the heroine, this 17-year-old, sort of looking up at him saying, "I'm yours," and she's petrified. But she's got no option but to stay there. And, of course, being my hero, he does the decent thing, and he does not seduce a 17-year-old. He sends her away. But she comes back later, and things get really interesting when she's back in the palace. It's one of those, there is definite sizzle there. And when she comes back, she's a much more confident, assured, sexy woman who knows what she wants as well. And it happens to be him.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah. Oh, I'm excited for that one.
It was lots of fun to write. I've just been getting reader feedback the last couple of days, actually, and it's been good reading the feedback, I must say.
Yeah. Oh, that is fantastic. So where can we find you online and see all your books? Well,
I've got my own website, so annie-west.com. And I'm also on Facebook.
Excellent.
So, yeah, and
Brilliant.
it's easy to find.
That's it. Well, thank you so much for joining me today, Annie. That was really fun. Thanks for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed the show. Jump onto my website, sarahwilliamsauthor.com, and join my mailing list to receive a free preview of my books and lots of other inspiration. If you like the show and wanted to continue, you can become a sponsor for just a couple of dollars a month. Go to patreon.com/sarahwilliamsauthor. And remember to follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel and leave a review of the podcast. I'll be back next week with another loved up episode. Bye!